Lots of news has been coming out recently that the trade calls for Montreal have seemed to have gone cold around this trade deadline. We'll be talking about how teams seem to have no interest in Mike Hoffman, some trade talks between the Habs and Pierre Luc Dubois, and finally some cool stats that show that Sam Montembeault has maybe been a top 5 goalie in the NHL this year, so you won't want to miss anything on this edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's news edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Goss, alongside my co-host, Jesse Poirier. Quickly before we get into the video, as always, on the road to 5,000 subs. Guys, we're getting tons of subs every single day. We just crossed 4,000 a few days ago. 5,000 is not that far away. Hit that button. It'd really help us out. Topic 1 today, Jesse. Mike Hoffman has zero interest from teams. Like, no interest at all. Check this out. We're going to bring this up. Darren Dreger says there was no interest around the league in Habs forward Mike Hoffman ahead of the deadline. Quote, the phones aren't even lukewarm on him. I know we've seen a lot of things, like Jeff Marek saying the Habs are going to have a super quiet deadline. But Mike Hoffman, as of late, has been performing decently. It was something like, 10 points in 12 games at one point. He hasn't looked as bad as he did earlier in the season for sure. Jesse, what do you think the main reason is the teams really are just not calling about Mike Hoffman?
Yeah, Darren Dreger with the shade a little bit, right? Yeah. I mean, we all know that Mike Hoffman didn't come off with the greatest start to the season, but you're right that he has kind of picked it up, you know, when we're kind of talking for me, this is a little bit surprising because I could definitely see him being of benefit on the power play for, I think, maybe another team that maybe has a little bit more of a, developed power play. It's like, we know that's his bread and butter. That's where he's really made his career. And so it's very interesting to see. I don't know. He's just kind of one of those players for me. Him, Mike Hoffman, and Erik Haula, who I always found that were good players. But then it's always it gets later on into free agency, camps are about to open up. And, before Hoffman kind of got his contract and everything, it kind of seems to be like those type of players that are always waiting for the last minute. And I kind of wonder, it seems like they're great hockey players. So it only leads me to kind of speculate on another thing, which I don't want to go into too much. I don't want to make any rumors without kind of knowing them too much. But you have to feel that this is kind of coming into the picture a little bit because it seems like he would have something to offer a team.
Yeah, it's interesting with Mike Hoffman. I mean, I like to call him theoretical goal scorer, but he's shown his prowess recently, and his passing game, at least in the last few weeks, just a bit before the All-Star break and in the few games after, has been pretty good. I think, Jesse, the big thing that's holding teams back for Mike Hoffman is straight up the contract. We've seen a lot of trades go down, especially the one today where Habs legend Shea Weber, not even sarcastic, Habs legend at this point, Shea Weber, his contract got traded from Vegas to the Coyotes along with a late round draft pick for the likes of Dyson Mayo. But salary has to get moved around. Like in that trade, the Ryan O'Reilly trade to the Leafs, where St. Louis and Toronto had to use a third proxy team in Minnesota, fed him a 4th round draft pick just to take on 25% of that O'Reilly contract. When you look at a guy like Hoffman, a guy who's making $4.5 million this year and I believe next year, if you're a playoff team looking for this kind of guy who can put pucks in the back of the net, I feel like it's getting really difficult to be able to make room for that $4.5 million contract, especially for a guy of Hoffman's caliber, and also a guy who historically hasn't been that great once the playoffs come around. What do you think?
It's a good point. If you're Kent Hughes, are you taking what you can get for him at this trade deadline, or are you keeping him?
I mean, at this point, if no team's offering anything for him, I say just keep him. Let him ride. I mean, we haven't heard any issues in the locker room with Hoffman. He's been putting up points at a decent rate recently. You just kind of eat the contract at this point. It's a Bergevin contract. You just kind of eat the rest of it. And if no teams come calling, I say you hold him. What do you think?
I think that just a philosophy change is needed, and I think you kind of said the key word there, the Bergevin word, which is, I think that there was a little bit of, there needs to be a little bit of a shift in the mentality that we had from that era, and I do feel like Hughes is pretty keen for that, not to be, rude to the likes of Armia, I would even throw Dvorak in there, Hoffman, obviously we know Drouin, everything else like that. I feel like so many Habs fans are just waiting for these players to kind of leave just so we can have a fresh start.
Yeah.
So I'm almost of the mind of, if we can get, a third, I know that's really hopeful, maybe just even a 4th or a 5th at this point, I would take, obviously, like you said, some salaries need to match, and maybe what we need to do there, if that's involving another team as well, which we've seen earlier on with the trade deadline, maybe doing something like that. But I think we do need to kind of move things a little bit forward, because I don't feel like Hoffman's really part of the future of this team.
Yeah, that's completely fair too. I know we've seen a lot of people saying the Habs management wants to keep some vets around the young guys to teach him, but like you said, at this point, Mike Hoffman, if we can get anything for him, I say, yeah, if a decent offer comes around, go ahead. But for now, keep him. Let us know in the comments, guys, what you guys think, whether the Habs should look to just keep Hoffman for another year, or even just ship him out for a 5th or 6th or whatever you can get for him. Topic 2 today. Some Pierre Luc Dubois talks are picking up again, and we're just rehashing this Pierre Luc Dubois news. It comes out quite a lot. I mean, there's obviously a lot of talk linking Pierre Luc Dubois with Montreal. The center, the amazing center, star center for the Winnipeg Jets. His contract ends next summer, not this summer coming, but in 2024. And there's lots of talks linking him to Montreal. But Marco D'Amico tweeted today saying the chatter linking the Habs to Pierre Luc Dubois has picked up again this week, but the likelihood of such an acquisition seems unlikely, at least for now. And his reasoning is that the Jets, they have a few guys who are getting older, like the likes of Blake Wheeler and Scheifele, who also only has a year left on his deal. They kind of want to make a push, especially when Josh Morrissey's having a career year. They want to keep Pierre Luc Dubois around. Jesse, I know we've talked a lot about this. Both of our philosophies in the past has been kind of just wait and see if Dubois wants to come here in free agency, but are you intrigued at all by the fact that these rumors are just not staying quiet? We're hearing rumors, it feels like every week, of reporters saying the Habs are still talking to the Jets, like Kent Hughes might want to get something done.
Definitely. And I think the reason that is that other teams are going to start inquiring. And we can't just assume that Pierre Luc Dubois has all the leverage in this situation. I think you're right, Josh. It's like they're definitely going to make like a run for it this year. And I think it's a great time to do so. I think they've been wanting to do that for a long time. Got a great team, great goalie. Why not? But I could really see a trade this summer after they've made their run, kind of depending on how that goes and everything. But I could see them shooting their shot this summer and then trying to recoup some sort of assets back, because you have to feel, if you're the GM for the Jets, like that he's going to be leaving. Mm-hmm. So it would only feel like proper asset management to try and get something back for him. And often we know that during the summer is often some of the best time to get that maximum value back. So I could see that as a course of action happening in the future.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess a lot of the negative stories quiet down in the summer, and you're kind of just projecting as opposed to seeing how a player's playing now. You're like, well, he could be even better next year. The Jets might get a better return, so they might hold off, like you said. I think you make a great point in that they'll probably keep him at least until the end of the season. But it's very interesting to me that Hughes and Gorton are clearly still keeping in touch with the Jets organization about Dubois, saying like, look, we want to make this work. So Habs fans, it seems like this might be something, well, I mean, it's obviously something you've been keeping an eye on already, but as we get near the trade deadline and then after that towards the summer, I don't think these talks are going to cool down, and maybe don't get your hopes up, but I think Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton might have something up their sleeve. Final topic today, Jesse. We got some Sam Montembeault stuff. I love Sam Montembeault. We all love Dikembe. Dikembe Montembeault down in net has been so good for Montreal this year. And we got some cool stats to show you guys. Showing that one stat that shows that Montembeault has been a top 5 goalie in one metric this season. Look at this. So this is percentage of games with at least a .925 save percentage this season in the NHL. So what percentage of your total starts, or games played, I should say, have you had above a .925? Sam Montembeault ranks 5th in the entire NHL out of a minimum of 20 matches played. 13 of his 24 starts, he's had a .925 save percentage or higher. Jesse, I find that crazy. Considering how many shots Montreal gives up, yeah, obviously more shots against, more chances to make a save. But the thing is, Montreal gives up quite a lot of high danger scoring chances. Their defense is still young, making a lot of mistakes. What does it show you that Montembeault has been able to be so consistently good with these high tier performances?
It's just so nice to see the numbers starting to follow the eye test of what we've all kind of noticed, because it's really hard to just kind of ignore these type of numbers after a while. I mean, he's hanging out with, the best in the league, right? And you have to play a couple. I like how, that those statistics were based off, you had to have played at least 25 games. So he's showing a lot of consistency. But to be honest, Josh, I'm not surprised. What we saw from, even last night against the New Jersey Devils, I think he really won that game for us. I think he was standing up for us in net. How many breakaways did we see
at least
him
4.
just
at least 4.
stand his ground?
Yeah.
Right? And I just love how he's so patient, butterfly, but not quick to go down. Has a really great style. I think he's really, developed his technique. along with that, huge frame that he has to begin with, I think that we're really seeing the makings of a great goalie for years to come, which I'm so excited about. Like, I didn't see this coming. Like, this is, one of the greater highlights of this year for the Canadiens.
Yeah, that's very true. He's got a weird, like, hybrid style. Even on the breakaways, he's not going full down into the butterfly. It allows him for some extra mobility. And, you can only hope that he doesn't regress back to the mean next year. But I don't think he will, because he's facing some high-danger shots. The challenges he's faced this season in net for Montreal, I don't think there's anything better than a trial by fire like that for a goalie. And Jesse, not only does he have one of the highest percentages of 925 games or above, he's also top 10 in goals saved above expected. Money Puck has a stat. They calculate expected goals against based on your team's defense and the other team's scoring opportunities. It's a detailed calculation, but they basically take this expected goals against number and then subtract the total goals against from it, and that's the expected or goals saved above expected. And Montembeault is 10th in the entire NHL and also top 10 in goals saved above expected per 60, which just normalizes for a full game. He's been so good, so consistently throughout the year. And we've had multiple videos. I feel like I've put him in the thumbnail of so many videos saying top 10, top 8, whatever, because he's been able to have these performances the whole year. Just a quick yes or no. Does he start more games than Jake Allen for the rest of the season?
Not yet.
Okay.
But next year, we'll revisit this. I think that's going to change.
I think so too. I think you might be right. I think it'll be pretty much a 50-50 barring any injury, knock on wood. But yeah, very interested to see how his performance continues. And boy, I'm hyped for our boy Montembeault. But that'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Help us hit 5K. We're getting so close to it. Almost half of the way to 10,000 subs. We really appreciate all the support you guys give us, and we hope it continues long into the future. I'm Josh Gosse for Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.